Let me ask you something that might genuinely disturb you. What if the brain fog you've been writing off as just getting older is actually your brain sending out a distress signal? And what if the most powerful opportunity to stop that damage, to literally clean out your brain cells, rebuild neural connections, and wake up sharper, is happening every single night while you sleep, and you've been completely missing it? Tonight, we're talking about 3 specific fruits that, when eaten at the right time before bed, can trigger a chain reaction of cellular repair inside your brain that most people over 60 never get to experience because nobody told them it was possible. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is dedicated to translating real, peer-reviewed science into strategies you can actually use in your life. Starting today. Hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell icon so you never miss another video like this one. We're building a global community of people who refuse to let aging win without a fight, and we are so glad you're here. Now, back to your brain. Because here's what nobody is telling you, and it matters. Most people over 60 have been handed a very convenient lie. The lie is that memory loss, brain fog, and mental slowdown are simply the price of getting older, that it's inevitable, that you should just accept it, manage it, maybe do a crossword puzzle. But the science, the real cutting-edge science, is telling an entirely different story. What researchers are now discovering is that the aging brain is not a broken machine. It is a machine that is being starved. Starved of the right nutrients, starved of the right signals, starved of the right conditions to do what it has always been designed to do: repair itself. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. The most strategically powerful moment for brain repair in your entire day isn't during a workout, it isn't during meditation, and it certainly isn't during a doctor's appointment. It's happening in those quiet hours after you close your eyes. Your brain runs its entire maintenance crew while you sleep. And what you eat in the 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed either gives that crew everything it needs to do an outstanding job, or it sends them home early with nothing to work with. That distinction is everything. So tonight, we are going to break down 3 fruits, not obscure superfoods from a jungle you've never heard of, not $80 bottles of extract you have to order online. 3 fruits you can find at virtually any grocery store. 3 fruits backed by peer-reviewed research published in journals like Alzheimer's and Dementia, Neurology, Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience, and Frontiers in Psychology. 3 fruits that, when consumed at the right time and the right way, can help clear toxic debris from your brain, stimulate the growth of new neural connections, boost the neurochemicals your brain needs for memory and deep sleep, and slow down, or in some cases reverse, the very processes that lead to cognitive decline. And we are not going to skim the surface here. We're going to talk mitochondria. We're going to talk about the glymphatic system. We're going to talk about BDNF, neuroinflammation, the gut-brain axis, and the serotonin to melatonin cascade. Because your brain deserves actual science, not vague, feel-good advice dressed up in wellness language. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your body after 60. Because understanding the problem is what makes the solution make sense. Around the time you cross that threshold, several major biological systems begin to shift, and they shift simultaneously, which is why the effects compound so quickly. First, your brain's production of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, begins to fall. Think of BDNF as Miracle-Gro for your neurons. It builds new connections, keeps existing brain cells alive, and is absolutely central to the brain's ability to learn and remember. When BDNF levels drop, neural connections weaken. Think of it like a city gradually losing its road maintenance budget. The roads don't collapse overnight, but they deteriorate. And then one day, you try to remember where you put your keys, or the name of someone you've known for years, and the pathway just isn't as clear as it used to be. Second, your glymphatic system, the brain's own dedicated waste clearance network, becomes less efficient. This is a system that runs almost exclusively during deep sleep. It pumps cerebrospinal fluid through the spaces between brain cells and literally flushes out toxic waste products, amyloid plaques, tau proteins, inflammatory debris, the exact compounds associated with Alzheimer's disease. When this system is working well, your brain wakes up refreshed and clean. When it's not, and in many people over 60 it's not, that waste accumulates, night after night, year after year. Third, your gut microbiome starts shifting in ways that reduce the production of key neurochemicals. And this matters enormously, because your gut and your brain are in constant, direct communication through what scientists call the gut-brain axis. What happens in your gut doesn't stay in your gut. It sends signals straight to your brain, for better or worse. Fourth, and this one is subtle, but devastating, your mitochondria, the tiny energy-generating structures inside every single brain cell, begin accumulating damage faster than your brain can clean them up. And when damaged mitochondria pile up, they don't just stop working. They start releasing inflammatory signals that interfere with everything around them. So here's why timing your food around sleep is such a big deal. Your glymphatic cleaning crew is most active during the first few hours of deep, slow-wave sleep. If you go to bed with a blood sugar spike from a sugary snack, or with inflammatory compounds from processed food, or, and this is a big one, with alcohol in your system, you disrupt the entire night's repair cycle. You basically lock the cleaning crew out of the building. But if you go to bed having given your brain the exact molecular building blocks it needs to activate and amplify that repair process, you're not just maintaining your brain, you're investing in it. The science points specifically to a window of about 1 to 2 hours before sleep as the optimal time to consume these neuroprotective compounds. So let's get into the 3 fruits. The first one is pomegranate. And I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, pomegranate. I've heard it's good. Antioxidants. Whatever. But I want you to hold on, because what's happening biochemically with this fruit is genuinely extraordinary. And it starts not in your brain, but in your gut. Here's an analogy that will make this click. Imagine each of your brain cells as a factory. Inside that factory, thousands of tiny power generators called mitochondria are running around the clock, producing the energy your neurons need to fire signals, process information, and lock in memories. Now, as you age, some of those power generators start to malfunction. Instead of producing clean energy, they produce toxic byproducts, and they begin to drag down the efficiency of the entire operation. Now your brain has a natural system for dealing with this. It's called mitophagy, essentially a quality control process that identifies damaged mitochondria, removes them, and makes room for healthy replacements. When mitophagy is working, your brain stays clean. When mitophagy fails, which happens increasingly with age, those damaged generators pile up, release inflammatory signals, and begin to poison the factory from the inside. This is one of the central mechanisms driving both Alzheimer's disease and general age-related cognitive decline. This is exactly where pomegranate becomes extraordinary. Pomegranates are packed with complex compounds called elagitannins and ellagic acid. When these compounds reach your gut, specific species of beneficial bacteria, particularly those in the Gordonobacter and Eligibacter families, convert them into a metabolite called urolithin A. And urolithin A, based on what researchers currently understand, is one of the most potent natural activators of mitophagy ever identified. A landmark 2024 study published in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia, out of the University of Copenhagen in collaboration with the National Institute on Aging, found that urolithin A improved learning and memory, reduced neuroinflammation, and actively restored the brain's autophagy and lysosomal function in multiple Alzheimer's mouse models. The researchers found it cleared damaged mitochondria with an effectiveness comparable to NAD supplements, which are widely considered among the most powerful neuroprotective compounds available, and which many people are spending serious money on every single month. Let that land for a second. A compound produced by your own gut bacteria, from a fruit, performing at the level of one of the most expensive supplements on the market. And that's not where the research stops. A separate 2024 paper published in the journal Nutrients confirmed that urolithin A also activates the longevity gene sirtuin, which is involved in DNA repair inflammation control, and cellular longevity across multiple organ systems, including the brain. This isn't a single-trick compound. It is a system-wide signal for your body to start cleaning house. Now here's the timing insight that makes all of this relevant to your bedtime routine. The conversion of L-glutamins into urolithin A doesn't happen instantly. It takes several hours inside your gut. So when you eat pomegranate 1 to 2 hours before bed, the urolithin A production peaks during the early hours of sleep, precisely when your glymphatic system is running at full capacity. You are essentially syncing your food to your brain's own repair schedule. That is not an accident. That is strategy. The practical protocol. Aim for roughly half to a full pomegranate's worth of arils. Those are the little seed pods, in the evening. If that's not practical, 4 to 6 ounces of 100% pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar works as a solid alternative. And pair it with a small amount of healthy fat. A few walnuts, a drizzle of olive oil, a tablespoon of almond butter, because the polyphenols in pomegranate absorb significantly better in the presence of dietary fat. One more note. If your gut bacteria are out of balance due to years of processed food, antibiotics, or a low-fiber diet, your conversion of L-glutamins to urolithin A may be reduced. This is why gut health, prebiotics, fermented foods, eliminating ultra-processed stuff, is part of the same picture as brain health. They are not separate conversations. Now, if you're finding this useful and you haven't subscribed yet, this is your reminder. Hit that subscribe button. We put out content like this regularly, and the research that goes into each video is extensive. You don't want to miss it. The second fruit is blueberries. And yes, you've probably heard blueberries are good for the brain, but I promise you, what you're about to hear goes several layers deeper than anything you've come across before. The key compounds in blueberries are their anthocyanins, specifically cyanidin and delphinidin, which belong to a class of phytonutrients called flavonoids. Now, flavonoids have a remarkable ability that most dietary compounds simply don't possess. They can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's the protective membrane that filters almost everything that tries to get into your brain. Most things, including many medications, can't get through. Flavonoids can, and once they're inside, they go to work in multiple coordinated ways. A 2021 study published in Neurology analyzed the dietary data of tens of thousands of men and women tracked over many years and found that people who regularly consumed anthocyanin-rich foods, including blueberries, blackberries, and cherries, had a 24% lower risk of cognitive decline compared to those who rarely ate them. And the research noted that as little as half a serving per day produced measurable benefits in cognitive aging. Half a serving. That's a small handful of blueberries. The dose is more accessible than most people think. But here's the mechanism that really matters. Blueberry anthocyanins directly upregulate BDNF, the brain's fertilizer, the molecule we talked about earlier that promotes neuronal growth, strengthens synaptic connections, and protects brain cells from deterioration. The hippocampus, the brain's primary memory hub, and the region most vulnerable to Alzheimer's damage, shows particular sensitivity to this BDNF boost. A 2023 clinical study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that a polyphenol-rich blueberry and grape extract produced significant improvements in episodic memory and cognitive function in older adults with mild cognitive impairment. The researchers specifically linked these gains to the upregulation of BDNF and neuronal signaling proteins, including something called CREB, which is directly involved in the process of locking in memories. And a randomized controlled trial published in Nutritional Neuroscience in 2022 found that wild blueberry consumption improved information processing speed in older adults with mild cognitive decline. A separate University of Cincinnati study found that blueberry supplementation improved memory interference, essentially the brain's ability to hold on to one piece of information without being overwritten by another, in middle-aged adults with insulin resistance and subjective cognitive complaints. Here's why eating blueberries before bed specifically is the smart move. Memory consolidation, the process of transferring what you learned and experienced today into long-term storage, happens primarily during sleep, particularly during REM and slow-wave cycles. And the BDNF elevation triggered by blueberry anthocyanins doesn't peak immediately after you eat them. Research shows it takes roughly 90 minutes to 2 hours to reach maximum effect. So if you eat blueberries about 90 minutes before you go to sleep, the BDNF peak coincides almost exactly with the brain's most active memory consolidation window. You're not just eating a healthy snack, you're timing a neurological intervention, the practical protocol, half a cup to a full cup of blueberries in the evening. Frozen blueberries work just as well, and some studies actually show slightly higher antioxidant content than fresh. Eat them plain, stir them into Greek yogurt, or blend them into a small smoothie. The one thing to avoid is anything with added sugar: blueberry muffins, sweetened blueberry jam, blueberry-flavored yogurt. Blood sugar spikes at night directly counteract the neuroprotective effects you're trying to create. You want the anthocyanins, not the glucose ride. The third fruit is the one that surprises people most. It doesn't have the celebrity status of blueberries. It doesn't carry the dramatic reputation of pomegranate. But when it comes to unlocking your brain's overnight repair cycle, it might be the most important of the three. It's the kiwi fruit. And what kiwi does starts with sleep. But the downstream effects are profound. Here is the non-negotiable truth about brain repair. None of it. Not the glymphatic cleaning, not the memory consolidation, not the BDNF-driven neural rebuilding. None of it happens effectively without deep, high-quality sleep. This is not soft wellness advice. This is hard neuroscience. Your brain's waste clearance system operates almost exclusively during slow-wave sleep. When you don't reach that stage, or when you cycle through it too briefly, amyloid beta plaques and tau protein tangles accumulate in your neural tissue. Those are the exact compounds that define Alzheimer's disease. Poor sleep isn't just uncomfortable. It is, in the most literal biological sense, accelerating brain aging. Think of it this way. Deep sleep is the night shift janitor for your brain. If the janitor doesn't show up, the garbage piles up, and then the next night's janitor has twice as much to deal with, and eventually, the mess becomes unmanageable. Now here's what most people over 60 are quietly dealing with. Melatonin, the hormone that signals your body to initiate and sustain deep sleep, naturally declines with age. By the time you reach your 70s, your melatonin levels can be less than half of what they were in your 30s. This is why so many older adults struggle to fall asleep, wake up repeatedly through the night, or wake up feeling completely unrested even after 7 or 8 hours in bed. You're sleeping, but you're not getting the deep restorative sleep your brain needs, and without that, everything downstream suffers. This is where kiwi steps in, and the specificity is remarkable. Kiwi fruit contains naturally occurring melatonin, roughly 24 micrograms per gram, along with measurable concentrations of serotonin, which is melatonin's direct biochemical precursor. On top of that, kiwi is rich in tryptophan, phenylalanine, and glutamic acid, the amino acid precursors to dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, which together form the chemical architecture of calm, deep, restorative sleep. This is not just a fruit. This is, in effect, a neurochemical toolkit that fits in the palm of your hand. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2023 found that consuming kiwi fruit with the evening meal significantly increased urinary concentrations of both the serotonin metabolite 5-HIAA and the melatonin metabolite 6-sulfatoxymelatonin compared to a control group. Both fresh and freeze-dried kiwi participants showed measurable improvements in mood, morning alertness, and reduced sleep disturbances. The mechanism? Kiwi's unique combination of serotonin precursors and an enzyme called actinidin, which enhances amino acid absorption in the gut, creates an earlier and more sustained peak of neurochemical precursors in the bloodstream, which the brain then converts into melatonin and GABA, both of which are essential for getting into, and staying in, deep sleep. A landmark study in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults who ate 2 kiwis 1 hour before bedtime regularly spent significantly more time in slow-wave deep sleep, the exact stage where the glymphatic system is most active, where memory consolidation is happening, and where brain cell repair is running at its highest rate. Think about what that chain reaction looks like in practice. You eat kiwi before bed. Your serotonin levels rise. Serotonin converts to melatonin. Melatonin signals your circadian system to initiate deep sleep. Deep sleep activates the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system sweeps amyloid plaques and inflammatory debris out of your neural pathways. Simultaneously, your hippocampus consolidates the day's memories, transferring them into long-term storage, and you wake up sharper, clearer, more alert, with a brain that has genuinely been cleaned, repaired, and reset overnight. This is not poetry. This is the literal physiology of what eating the right food at the right time can do. The practical protocol: 2 medium green kiwis, eaten roughly 1 hour before bed. If you can tolerate it, leave the skin on. It contains 3 times the fiber and additional polyphenols compared to the flesh alone. If the texture bothers you, blend the whole kiwi into a small smoothie. And if you want to maximize the effect, pair it with a few tart cherries or a small glass of tart cherry juice. That combination creates a synergistic effect that we'll touch on in just a moment. Now, and this is where it gets genuinely exciting, let's talk about how these 3 fruits work together as a system. The kiwi initiates the serotonin to melatonin cascade, pulling you into deeper sleep and opening the repair window. The blueberries deliver anthocyanins across the blood-brain barrier, elevating BDNF and supercharging memory consolidation during those deep sleep phases. And the pomegranate feeds your gut bacteria, which produce urolithin A, which activates mitophagy in your brain cells, clearing out damaged mitochondria and reducing the neuroinflammation that is the silent engine of cognitive decline. 3 fruits, 3 completely distinct mechanisms, all synchronized with your body's natural overnight repair cycle. This is what functional medicine is really about: understanding the body as an interconnected system and making choices that create compounding benefits, not isolated ones. And here's why this matters more after 60 than at any other time of your life. Before 60, your body has more compensatory capacity. BDNF is higher, melatonin is still being produced in meaningful amounts, the glymphatic system is more efficient, and your gut microbiome is more resilient. After 60, those buffers thin out. The margin for error narrows. This is precisely when strategic, well-timed nutritional intervention stops being optional and starts being essential. Now, a question that comes up frequently, and it's a fair one: is eating fruit before bed going to spike your blood sugar and cause problems overnight? The answer depends on the fruit and the portion. And the good news is that the 3 fruits we've covered today all have relatively low to moderate glycemic loads. Blueberries have a glycemic index of around 53. Kiwi comes in at approximately 50. Pomegranate seeds register at roughly 18 on the glycemic scale. These are not the fruits that will send your insulin into chaos at 11 p.m. That said, if you're diabetic or highly insulin resistant, pair any of these with a small amount of protein or healthy fat: Greek yogurt, a handful of walnuts, a tablespoon of almond butter. That combination will blunt any glucose response and keep your insulin stable through the night, which is itself a neuroprotective strategy. Stable insulin at night supports better glymphatic clearance. It all connects. Before I wrap up, I want to give one more honorable mention, and that's tart cherries, specifically Montmorency cherries. These little powerhouses contain both naturally occurring melatonin and anthocyanins. A 2025 systematic review in Food Science and Nutrition found that tart cherry consumption was linked to significant improvements in sleep duration and efficiency, as well as measurable reductions in inflammatory markers including CRP and IL-6. A preclinical study found that tart cherry anthocyanins actually accumulated in the brain tissue of aged subjects, where they reduced hippocampal inflammation and improved working memory. Tart cherries didn't make the main 3 tonight because they're slightly harder to find fresh in many regions, but tart cherry juice is absolutely worth adding to your evening rotation, alongside or in combination with the 3 primary fruits. And if you're still watching at this point, first of all, you're exactly the kind of person this channel was built for. You don't just scroll past, you actually want to understand. That matters. So drop your city and country in the comments right now. We have viewers tuned in from dozens of countries around the world, and seeing where our community is watching from is one of the highlights of creating this content. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a genuinely good moment to do it. Every video we make is backed by real research and designed to give you something actionable. Don't miss the next one. Let's bring everything together, because when you step back and look at all of it, one foundational truth emerges. Your brain is not passively aging. Every single night, it is either repairing itself or declining. And the chemical environment you create in the hours before you go to sleep determines which one happens. You have far more control over that environment than most people have ever been told. After 60, there are 3 things your brain desperately needs overnight: a clean internal environment, achieved through efficient glymphatic function during deep sleep, a steady supply of neurotrophic growth factors like BDNF to maintain and rebuild the connections that memory depends on, and effective mitophagy to clear out damaged mitochondria and extinguish the neuroinflammation that slowly erodes cognitive function. Each of the 3 fruits we covered tonight addresses one of those needs directly. Blueberries deliver anthocyanins into the brain itself, elevating BDNF and enhancing memory consolidation during sleep. Pomegranate supplies the elagitannins that your gut bacteria convert into urolithin A, one of the most powerful natural mitophagy activators modern neuroscience has identified, with demonstrated effects on reducing Alzheimer's-related symptoms and restoring brain cell function at the mitochondrial level. And kiwi fruit provides the serotonin precursors, natural melatonin, and amino acid toolkit your brain needs to actually get into the deep restorative sleep that all of the other repair processes depend on. These claims are not drawn from wellness blogs or supplement company websites. They come from studies published in Neurology, Alzheimer's and Dementia, Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience, and Frontiers in Psychology. They come from research conducted at institutions including the University of Copenhagen, Duke University, and Murdoch University. Scientists who are actively investigating these compounds as potential interventions for neurodegenerative disease. As Dr. Jacob Allen has noted in his work on dietary neuroprotection, the convergence of multiple peer-reviewed studies pointing toward these specific fruits and their mechanisms is not something that should be dismissed as anecdotal. This is where the science is pointing, clearly and consistently. The window is real. The fruits are accessible. The science is solid. So here's your challenge for tonight. Pick just one of the 3 fruits we talked about. Eat it roughly 1 hour before bed. Do it consistently for 2 weeks. Pay attention to how your sleep changes. Notice whether your mental clarity in the morning feels different. Notice whether that familiar cloud of brain fog, the one you may have started accepting as your new normal, begins to lift. Because based on the evidence, there is a very real chance that it will. Your brain has not given up on repairing itself. It is waiting for the right signals. And now you know what some of those signals are. If this video gave you something real, a new understanding, a specific tool, a reason to believe that your brain health is still within your influence, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that this content is worth reaching more people, and it helps us keep making it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And share this with someone in your life who needs to hear it, because the people you care about deserve this information too. Your brain is one of the most irreplaceable things you have. Let's treat it that way, together, one evidence-based decision at a time.